Welcome to Debug Diaries by CSC, a podcast where we dive deep into technology with some of the most influential minds shaping its landscape. Join us as we explore the past, navigate the present, and envision the future of innovation and technology. Today, we are thrilled to have with us a dynamic entrepreneur and tech enthusiast, Mr. Kalana Muthumuni. Kalana is the co-founder and CEO of Hyperglade, a company at the forefront of innovative solutions in Sri Lanka. Having studied computer science at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of Moratuwa, Kalana has a rich background in technology and business. He began his career as Director of Operations at Urban.lk, a premium online store that became part of John Keel's holdings in 2019. In collaboration with Draper Nation, he is reimagining what it means to be part of a connected world. Join us as we dive into Kalana's journey, his insights on entrepreneurship, and his vision for the future of technology. So, good afternoon, Mr. Kalana. Very happy to have you here on our podcast.
Thank you very much, Ravinder. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, as I mentioned in the introduction, you are currently the CEO of Hyperglade, which is one of the hottest, if not the hottest, tech startups in Sri Lanka.
Thanks.
But your journey would have started much before that. So,
Yeah.
could you give us a little bit of an insight onto how you started and
Right.
what helped you get where you are today?
Great. When it comes to my startup journey, I think where I am right now, that got kickstarted when I'm in the university. I was here in 2014 with a bunch of friends who really wanted to do something ourselves. Essentially, we saw different companies around the world solving different problems. We really wanted to do something ourselves. And it is during that time, I would say, this entire journey kickstarted. But I think my journey in the business world sort of happened due to consequences. When I was really small, I lost both my parents. I was 9 years old and 13 years old. That sort of pushed me to go after things harder at a young age. So from a young age, I was doing different things which would give me that pocket money or something that is required to keep going. That was a part of it, but I think I properly got into the startup world when I was in the university. And while I was here, my brother wanted to start another business. He was also one of those people who really wanted to do something themselves. We decided we will do an e-commerce business. So essentially, at that point, e-commerce in Sri Lanka was very early stage compared to the rest of the world, and we saw a massive opportunity, and we worked on it. And I started while I was a student in the computer science engineering department. And I was working with Urban till 2021, at which point I was looking for an idea that could take us to the global markets. And an opportunity came up with NFTs and blockchain, and that's where Hyperglade began. Um, Essentially, while we were scaling Urban through the times of COVID, we were looking at diversifying our technology and the talents that we had within the team to a global opportunity. NFT market was booming. We saw an opportunity to let artists connect with this world. We took about, I think, 2 weeks. It was a very bare bones product. We just connected a few things to a WordPress site, and we did an auction, did a little bit of marketing, but that became a very successful auction. We had the bidding starting at $50, ended at 1,275 for some artwork. All of the artists who were there were able to sell their NFTs, and we didn't know this at the time, but we looked at the journey of buying an NFT and thought this is very chaotic. A normal person won't be able to buy this, but there's demand from the market. So we just short circuited the customer journey. By later, we calculated 70% increment in reduction in the user journey. And that got the attention of global players because it was the first time in the region where normal credit card payments were used to buy a blockchain product like NFT.
Right.
So we started working with MasterCard. We started doing consultancy in the field. We dove deeper into different things we could do, and we also received investment from Silicon Valley directly to fund our product as the pre-seed level. So that allowed us to take the product to global markets, work with different funds in US, Singapore, Indonesian markets, as well as, of course, Sri Lankan market as well. And that is where we are at. That journey is still going, and it's been pretty exciting so far.
Well, I have to say that is a truly remarkable journey which speaks of the resilience and the hard work that you have put in throughout the years to make the successes that you are making today.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sure, as you mentioned that you started off at the University of Moratuwa,
Yeah.
and there probably were some characteristics that you got being a student at the
Yeah.
University of Moratuwa that truly helped you to
Yes.
on your journey as an entrepreneur. So, could you elaborate a bit more about what you learned, who you
Yeah.
met, and
Yeah.
who helped you while at the University of Moratuwa?
So later on, when I was halfway through this startup journey, I was thinking, how did I end up here? Because essentially there were a bunch of opportunities that I saw, and that sort of got me on this path. When I narrow it down, one thing I noticed is I did a lot of hackathons while I was here. And when you are doing a hackathon, you have the coding sprint, and then you have the presentation. And in that, what I noticed is I was doing the ideation and the presentation a lot more. That was more my passion, understanding the business use case, communicating that to the audience. So that is sort of a skill that I developed while here, while working with the peers. And it is actually not just our batch, it's also seniors and juniors that we get to work with, right? So just behind there, I was playing Xbox with seniors 2 years older to us, and I still meet them when I'm in Singapore, some of them. So there have been very good partnerships that we built. We organized a hackathon in Singapore, and for that, those people were also a part of. So good network, good inspiration to do something, and also put me in touch with a lot of talented people. So that's very inspirational because uh, when you're coming to, let's say, University of Moratuwa, you have to work really hard, and in sometimes you might feel like you're isolated in a group of friends, and then because your interests might not be the same as maybe your school friends or people you have in the neighborhood, but you come to university and you're like, oh, this is sort of the same nerdiness and geekiness that I have, that I also see from here. So that was very exciting. And there, like, I pretty much stayed in uni for 4 years, even though I dropped out in the last semester. We can get into that later. And during that, we had a lot of events. I did dancing here in the university as well, CC department's first night. So we had a lot of events where we would organize different things. I was part of ISEC. We did different projects with it, and those are all good opportunities to grow, see new things, because from personally, I think this might be the case for most of us, but personally, I was super focused on studies until I got here. And for me, that was the only thing I saw as something that I should do. And it's only when I got to the university that I started doing different things. So I have a lot of my good friends here as well. Even how I got married, I went to this Comic Con with a friend of mine, Manojit, and through that group is where I found my wife. So I think university definitely contributed a lot to where I am today, in a lot of positive ways. Even when I was dropping out, they were very understanding why I was doing that, and was encouraging to do better as well in my that journey in the business world.
Right. So, one thing you have in common with Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, and many tech founders is that you decided that the degree wasn't for you and dropped off towards the end of your
Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah.
So could you elaborate a bit about that and why you took that decision,
Yeah.
and maybe tell people you don't have to drop off. You can stay in uni and still start your own business.
I do say that a lot because for me it was very circumstantial. Uh, I had a lot of difficulty in childhood, so I was always trying to find that comfort in terms of financial stability. So this doing a startup it's sometimes a shortcut for that, and it's also a way for you to in normal like in the normal world earn a lot more money than you could in a career. So it's a probabilistic thing. So it's not that if just by doing a startup you will, because it's a lot of work. It's essentially a 24/7 job. But I wanted to do that, and I was doing that, and I was getting some good progress with Urban, where we were getting an investment from John Kears. So it was a really good program that we were going through, and that needed a lot of attention from me. And that was one of the main reasons that I decided to do that. So if I boil it down, the reason why I actually would do that in the last year is because I didn't feel like I had a safety net. So I wanted to make that safety net myself. And I was confident that if I take this step today, I might be able to build that for myself. And I also knew that if things go wrong, I have learned a lot already. It's the last year. So all that knowledge is there and I could utilize it. That was my thinking. I wouldn't recommend anybody to do that at all. Yeah.
That is so interesting. But we'll get into where you are at now. You're the CEO of Hyperglade, which you also helped co-found, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. So could you tell us a bit about Hyperglade and what is happening at your company at the moment?
Right. So Hyperglade is a blockchain product company, and what essentially we do is we use a technology framework to allow investors access into a market that is not easy to access. So if I boil it down into simple terms, what we do is trade financing. Essentially, think of bottle of Coca-Cola or a soap that you're buying from a supermarket. The supermarket has a period of 7 to 14 days to make the payment to the brand or the suppliers. And that period of credit is trade financing. We do that trade financing with a different set of investors. Typically, that trade financing is done by banks and financial institutions, which takes a lot of information from the borrower. Essentially, they would take some form of collateral like a deed or some form of fixed deposit or a bank guarantee. But what we are doing is we are partnering with the suppliers to identify who are the better retailers based on their past history. So instead of using a collateral method, we use a historical performance to analyze the risk and give them this credit. On the other side, we have a technological framework that records all this data transparently for investment funds that are traditionally not in this market. Investment funds, they like to diversify their investment portfolio based on different risks. And trade financing is still very early for these guys, but private credit like that has been looking into these markets with technology. Because something that earlier took hundreds of people working in a bank now can be boiled down to a smart contract. So that's the idea. It's a very operation heavy process to set up because we need to set up tri-party agreements with different entities. We need to set up the investment accounts in the regulations that we are operating, which is the United States, and connect all of this in a technological framework. Lot of work, but we have a really good team that has been helpful in setting up the regulations, setting up the smart contracts, setting up the partnerships, and going to market. Simplified, we allow an investment fund to invest into a smart contract that identifies different retailers in regions like Sri Lanka, Singapore, Indonesia, invest into their trade working capital requirements in a cycle. So every 7-14 days, this cycle operates. The borrower can simply use their existing framework they are using for credit. They don't even need to have a tech wallet or anything to be connected. It's connected with the fiat world and also connected with the stable coin world. We have had good partners in this journey, MasterCard being one of them. They are also quite interested in how this new technology can revolutionize an existing framework in finance markets. Um, just a tidbit, the existing trade financing mechanism have existed 4,000 years ago. So we are trying to come up with a new way with technology saying, okay, this was done out of necessity, not innovation, because 4,000 years ago, people didn't have a lot of technology. And we are still using the same framework with a bit of technology. We haven't reinvented it. With Hyperglade, we are trying to do that, which is a big idea. The market we are looking at is worth $2.5 trillion, and it's only getting bigger. So if we are able to crack this, it's going to be huge. But it's also a lot of work that we are aware, which is something I want to convey, because when you're doing a startup, you shouldn't think that the startup will be less work, because it's definitely going to be a lot more work. So you need to be very passionate to do that, and the way to do that is find something you're passionate about and follow that with everything you got.
Right. That is once again so cool how you are innovating something that is 4,000 years old. When you hear innovation in today's context, it is something that 50 years, 10, 20, or at max 100 years. But if since you are trying to innovate something that has existed for over 4,000 years, that is next level innovation, I have to say. So you mentioned blockchain. So when you mention blockchain, what comes to mind first is Bitcoin. But we all know that blockchain is much more than that. There's such a big ecosystem that is out there. So could you mention a bit about blockchain for our viewers who are not so sure about what this technology is?
Right. So the idea of blockchain is to let people control their money. For an example, let's take 2022, when our financial crisis was happening. People couldn't spend your money, right? People couldn't pay their tuition fees. People couldn't buy, let's say, there were card limits that were put up. So when somebody is abroad and trying to pay for their groceries, card declines even if they have money. So they had to find different ways to even survive. And there were so many that I know that had a lot of problem because they couldn't pay their tuition fees easily. They had to pay a lot more to find alternatives as well. This is because the currency system that we are currently using is heavily regulated by a government. It's called a fiat currency. So you might have heard of gold-backed currencies, right? Back in the day before the 70s, there was a gold peg where let's say a rupee is worth X amount of gold. So it is tied to that and it doesn't go up like how it goes now. But there's essentially asset that gives that value towards the currency. But when it comes to fiat, it's essentially the demand of the fiat that drives the currency. A lot of demand is there for the US dollar, then that is essentially how the dollar is backed. And there's nothing backing that tangibly. And this currency is heavily government controlled as well. So what Bitcoin, the idea is to allow individuals to have control of what they can do. And it uses the same principles as fiat for the value. The more people believe in it, the higher the value goes up. The more people join the ecosystem of Bitcoin and transact, the value of that goes up. So that was a concept that came up with blockchain. Blockchain was the technological backbone of this currency. But later, like a few years down the line, 2009, Bitcoin was released. And it was also done in a very cool way. Nobody knows who invented it. And that was like a 9-page white paper, which was very precise and to the point and solved some problems that the world hadn't solved before. So that technology backbone, later people realized that you can do a lot more with it. Essentially, you can create a verifiable structure. And for an example, let's say you're storing some data on a cloud and you have traceability. You want to say on this day this thing happened, on this day this thing happened. Typically you can just go back and change the data in the server and nobody would know whether this was changed or not. It's very difficult to verify it. But with, let's say, a blockchain ledger, you can easily verify without trust. It's a trustless system. where the system is built in a way that you can't go and change your own records. So there's a lot of use cases for that. Essentially, let's take land registry. Sri Lankan registry has a lot of issues because we are not able to trace the actual ownership easily, and it gets faked a lot. So with the blockchain-based certification system, this can be put into chain, and you can easily verify the parameters, who actually owns it, who got transferred, and those are some of the use cases that we are seeing in the real world as well, apart from the financial use cases we are looking at also, because since it's a financial system, the transfer fees are low, people can transfer it and see where the money is going. So if you're doing a fund on stable coins, you can easily audit that fund very easily. For example, there was this well-known bank recently, and also a few years ago, I think, had the manager take like a cent off of the books. So those type of things can be easily detected when it's digitized that way. So blockchain started getting use cases with that. We see so many things like meme coins and Ponzi schemes coming up as well. It's natural, I guess, because it's a new financial technology that people are interested in. Everybody wants 300 times the return they want. They go for the riskiest one and then get burned. Same concept is utilized in meme coins as well. To create a lot of hype, get people to think this is going up, and then it goes down, and some people make a lot of money, a lot of people lose a lot of money. And on that direction, I think we are still early stages of this technology. We are seeing a really good use cases, like we are seeing really good use cases pop up. And one thing that I also read recently is that when economists and financial markets were being created, they've also looked at scammers. It's a new thing, people don't understand it easily, so the first thing you're looking at it is a negative connotations. But we are seeing really good progress, like even if you take like the US market, regulations are very favorable, and most people are essentially looking at how can I benefit from this existing technology in a productive way. There are people who are looking at it in a negative way as well, and to use it to scam people. But I think we see that in everything as well.
Right. So as you mentioned, the key concept behind the beginning of blockchain was that you take control of your money,
Yes.
right, with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I think one of the facilitators of this is the decentralized finance concept, which
Yes.
you have in blockchain.
Yes.
So could you elaborate a bit more on that, as it is what your company is working on as well,
Yeah.
and what other real world use cases we have in decentralized finance?
Right. Okay. So when it comes to decentralized finance, it's an umbrella term. So there's a lot of different companies that are doing niche products. In a general sense, what it would be is you have the centralized financing, where you have one entity governing how money comes and goes, and you have different people putting money down. Think of your bank. Bank would keep a ledger of your account savings and balances, and you expect them to keep accurate track, and you also expect them to not be in a condition where you can't withdraw your money back, right? So you have a lot of trust and faith in that centralized entity to govern this properly. When it comes to decentralized entities, some of them operate on a concept called DAOs, D-A-O, decentralized autonomous organizations. They are set up in a way that individuals who are contributing to that system are able to govern and operate and transparently see and control what happens with that organization. So essentially think of a bank that each of us are able to function using your smartphone without too much hassle. There are concepts like that in the centralized world as well, somewhere like some things like mutual funds that allow people to do this, but this is a technology backbone that allows people to easily connect and work. So these decentralized finance systems are used for lending and borrowing, where one of the main concepts is, let's say you're holding Bitcoin and it's just sitting in a wallet, right? And in most cases, let's say you're having 100,000 rupees, you can put it in a bank, you can put it in an investment account and do different things. But let's say you're now holding Bitcoin as an asset, you can either keep it in a wallet and expect it to just go up with time, Or there are options where you can give it to a company that would essentially allow you to use that as collateral and give you stable coins in return. Now you can go and take that stable coin and invest in different instruments. So instead of simply just holding Bitcoin, you are able to earn a multiple on that investment as well. That's one of the major aspects of DeFi. Other side, DeFi is looking at integrating with the real world, like what we have done. Use this liquidity or the cash that is available in this digital economy and facilitate real world transactions, helping businesses get access easily as well. Um, like I said early, we are seeing really good options. We are seeing REITs, which is fractionalized real estate. If you have a land, you can fractionalize it and allow people to own a small piece, and the benefits of that land gets divided and distributed easily into those holders. That's one angle. And we are seeing a lot of innovative options coming up as well. Um, Mass market, when it comes to this, is still not well adopted. From the real economy, digital economy of blockchain is still only a small fraction. That is why we are able to see coins go up and down when people manipulate the market. So somebody with a large sum of wealth can manipulate these markets well. But uh, I think in the next 10 to 20 years, with more and more people adopting this, that manipulations will also reduce because the scale will be too difficult.
So the next question is to our viewers. Argentina, United States of America, Central African Republic. You'll never guess what these countries have in common. Well, the answer is that each of their heads of state have scammed people with a blockchain asset. So, when it comes to blockchain, we hear a lot about these meme coins, Ponzi scams, MLM schemes, and so on. The list
Yeah.
is endless. So, could you tell our viewers a bit about how to make sure that you don't fall for these scams and actually invest in these blockchain assets and use this technology in a way that you know is safe and they don't get scammed?
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I think the main reason why people tend to fall for this is that high return that they are seeing. They are seeing a lot of people earn a large sum of money over this coin, that coin, so they also want to get hyped and put money into that. But the way people make money from that coin, those coins, in for the most part, is a few people with a large sum of wealth get together, and they invest into a coin, and they get the value of that coin up, letting people see that this coin is going up and up and up. And then people enter this coin expecting to see the same value going up. And when it hits a volume where they can cash out easily, they all cash out, causing the coin to fail in 70%, 80%. Like sometimes they completely go out. And in some cases, people simply trust another person who sent a message and put money there. So if you are really excited about meme coins, I think the money you put there should be thought of money that you're giving away. If it comes back, it'll have a big return because you will make money in a very small percentage of chances, right? Like the chance of you making that will be very small. But there are people who have made money that way. Either you need to be very, very aware of the market or you have to be very, very lucky. So one of those two things can cause you to get money out of that. My advice would be to invest in projects that you can actually see the transparent history of what they are doing and where they are making money from. If you take a meme coin, the meme coin makes money out of other people who are believing in it. But let's say you're funding a token that is funding a business revenue generation. Then you can see, okay, this business operation is what is giving money to this coin. For an example, there are companies that have set up, even coffee shops, that have set up a token which gets a part of their revenue percentage. They would say 10% of our revenue earnings are going to this token, and we are crowdfunding using this token. That is valid. You can go see whether that coffee is good. If you really like that place, you can be a part of that journey and easily get income coming from this particular operation. So in this sense, what I'm saying is meme coins are a easy way to get a large sum, but it's a very easy way to lose a large sum as well. So if you are aware of that, go for it, knowing all the risk. But in the other side, what you need to do is you need to look at valuable business operations that you can transparently use in this technology. On the other side, there are certain things like Bitcoin, Ethereum that are looked at as digital gold because these are the original inventors of this technology. So more and more people are putting money there. And in the long run, there's a very good chance that these products will go up in value. So that's something that you can do, but I would advise that also should be for long term. Essentially, this market goes up and down in cycles. So each cycle, the market goes a lot higher as well. So if you observe that, you are able to see these cycles and invest into it. Um, I would essentially say invest a very small amount and try it out, and then understand how the market works and do it. Uh, Otherwise, what will happen is you'll get all that investment you are putting into it into the bad investments, and you will create a hatred for the market at the end.
Right. So at the beginning, you mentioned a bit about Sri Lanka's first NFT auction that you all kickstarted.
Yes.
So could you elaborate a bit more on how you all did that and what eventually happened to all of those artworks that you all sold?
Yeah. So the NFT auction that we hosted was essentially a way for people to have collectibles in the form of NFTs. So we got a few artists to work with us and create NFTs and let people collect them. So the idea of this was not trading, essentially allowing people to, for an example, let's say you buy a painting. Uh, let's say you buy a painting from uh, roadside, like it's a green path. You buy a nice artwork and you keep it in your house. It's kind of similar to that, but in a digital space. And the idea was also to be the first auction, allowing people to have more value in those holdings. So people who have bought this are holding those for the long term, as collectors of art do, and that essentially is one of the use cases of NFTs. The other form of use case of NFT is what we have in our platform, which is used for transactional transparencies. Um, Talking about the auction, it was quite fun. Essentially, we spoke to about 6, 7 artists who wanted to be a part of this, and we guided them on how to create, how to add the metadata, and we also created a marketing campaign around it. Essentially, within a 24-hour period, all the artists were able to sell their artwork, and on average, I think it was around $200 per artwork, and this was when the rupee was at 190, so it was a very good income as well. And at that at that point, I think a lot of people were excited about the technology and what can be done with it. We saw a lot more artists getting into the NFT market after this. Some have been able to create artwork worth thousands of dollars easily as well. I think in the long run, what we saw was the main artwork was something that we co-created with an artist called Adash. It was a futuristic Sigiriya, sort of cyberpunk themed, and the one who bought it is very happy with it. He bid very, very hard to get that artwork, and I think he's showcasing it in his NFT collection as well.
Right.
So you have a set of people who are um like, think of the art world. You have people who are collecting different kinds of art. Similarly, you have NFT collectors as well. So there are NFTs that were very hyped. Even the ones who buy them are saying that they bought it for a purpose, which is collection. Think of there's this one artwork which is called every I think 5,000 days or something like that, that went for $69 million. And the value of that has legitimately dropped significantly, but it's a historic piece in this community because the buyer of that was somebody who really believed in the NFT landscape, and his purchase was sort of a movement that he wanted to support. So I think art is essentially about that, right? Narratives, movements, what people express. So NFTs also have that sort of a history. Right now, the NFT market is sort of more focused on that collectible angle. And then there's also a technological revolution that's started. For example, the technology that we experimented with for that art piece is what essentially gave birth to the financial technology as well. So I think part of that auction is still in that in that sense within our company as well.
So I think that is a common theme for almost all of these entrepreneurs, where you start off with one thing and that
Yeah.
leads to
Yeah.
more and more. So I think one another for the second time we are
Yeah.
saying that, all our listeners out there, if you have an idea, start it off, because
Yes.
that could lead ways to many other aspects, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that led from this initial auction was the investment made in your by Silicon Valley, and that is something significant, right? So could you mention how you all got this investment and what exactly were they investing in?
Right. So after the auction, there was about a 2 year period between the investment and this, because we realized that we were onto something. We were looking at good use of the technology, but we wanted to be very sure of what we wanted to do in that technology. So we took some time. We did a bunch of consultants level work with companies that wanted to use the technology, and we also hosted another NFT art experience at Hatchworks, which went for 2 days. It was a local artist called Bilal Rashid, and he, I think, sold close to 15 NFTs of his work that day in the auction. It wasn't an auction; it's a art sale. So that was also another point that, like, another way that we experimented and to see how we could also bring value while we do that, right? So on that, we did a bunch of work, and then slowly we saw the potential to build the use case that we currently have. It was also not in that current shape and form, but it was an early form where we could tokenize this kind of assets and connect with investors. And at that point, we had an office at Hatchworks, and we had been going to Singapore to pitch into investors, getting our pitch ready. There was this one day where Sri Lankan Mastercard team connected us with the Singaporean team. They asked us to do a tour, and we got the basic tour that they do for a lot of companies, and then we made some good connections. And on the way down, I got into the elevator. I had a t-shirt that said Hyperglade, let's talk NFT. And so this was about the 26th floor, and there was a guy in shorts, and he was like, "Hey, cool t-shirt. What do you do?" And I explained what we do as a concept, and this is the product we are trying to make. And we got to the ground floor, literal elevator pitch on an elevator. And I didn't know who he was. He steps out and say, "I'm the VP of blockchain for MasterCard. I love what you're doing. Let's work together." And about a month later, they are flying me to Indonesia to work with them on educating the business sector how to use this technology. So that kind of things happen. So slowly we were building our expertise, fine tuning our pitch deck, fine tuning our pitch, and then uh, Tim Draper is a Silicon Valley billionaire who comes from a family of venture capital. So he was doing a tour of Hatchworks. And initially, he was looking at a few Sri Lankan companies to invest. He had a committee that was supposed to select companies, and we didn't get selected. But we still were in the office the day he was coming, so we got a quick 5 minute chat with him. And then he really liked it. He gave me his card. "Hey, if you are racing, give me a call." Gave me his card, and then he was shooting a episode of Meet the Drapers, which is sort of like a Shark Tank type of show in the States, and they give $1 million to the winners. And they had already selected a few companies for this show, and I was also in the office at this time, and I get a call saying, "Hey, Tim wants you on the show. He liked your product. Can you come pitch?" I had 20 minutes to pitch. I didn't have any time to make any adjustments to the deck or practice or anything. But I had been on that journey. I had been optimizing my feature I thought, okay, I'm not going to practice or anything. I'm just going to go and wing it. I did the pitch there, and then without going through Meet the Draper, Tim, when he went to United States, he set up a call and directly funded us. And that was quite fast. But thinking back, I see some of the learnings I had when getting the John Case investment, which I put a lot of time and effort even dropping out, helping me get that because the process, we were very familiar with it. We knew how to incorporate in US, work with safe agreements, data rooms, all of that experience was there. So it was very fast. I think we had the company incorporated within like 3 days. We had the agreement signed on the fourth day. On the fifth day, we had the money in the account. So it was very fast, very quick, very exciting. And since then, he has come back for more rounds as well. That's how venture capital works. They come for several rounds and they want a company to go through 4 or 5 rounds of funding as well. They have been very helpful. They have been quite excited about the Sri Lankan market. You'll probably see more investments from him in the Sri Lankan market this year. So I think that's something that we are also trying to do, get more eyes on Sri Lanka to see the amazing products that we are building here.
Right. So we've all heard of this cliche of the elevator pitch, but I think this is one of the first times I've heard it in real action and the real story behind an elevator pitch.
In an actual elevator.
Exactly. So I think you have kind of mastered, how to get people interested in your product in quite a few minutes, as you mentioned in both your stories. Right. So could you tell us a bit about how you can get people interested and how to attract investors and funds into a startup that you potentially build?
Right. So one of the main things I learned is when investors, especially the venture capital investors, when they invest in a team more than the idea, because they are essentially researchers in the business field. They are spending a lot of money, expecting to lose 90 to 95% of that money. They are only expecting a 5% of those companies to make a really good big impact. One thing I learned is you can't go with a small idea to venture capital, uh, which is something that was also a bit discouraging because when we were earlier in the Sri Lankan ecosystem, we kept hearing the words, you are thinking way too big for Sri Lanka. And then when we were talking to venture capital funds, we realized, okay, we do need to talk big vision, big idea to them because that's what they are looking for. Are you building a company that, if successful, will earn all my money back? Because they are not looking for companies to make a little bit of money. They are looking for companies to make a lot of money. So that's one of the main things. Your idea needs to be quite impactful to a sense that you will be known for that particular use case worldwide. Think Uber. Uber inspired a lot of different companies like even PickMe, Grab, but they were one of the first to do that right. It's not that they were the first ride-hailing app. There were many other ride-hailing apps that were trying to do that, but they cracked how to go to market, cracked how to get the large consumer base, and that is why they are a well-known name in the household now, right? Like everybody knows about Uber. So, like that, they are looking for ideas that could essentially disrupt something that is already happening in the world. So, that is key. And two, they are looking at the team a lot. So, you need to make sure that you have a really good team around you that is uniquely positioned and suited for this particular thing that you're trying to do. And they also expect you to pivot. That's one of the crucial points. They expect you to go to market, figure out the market better, and also adjust your business use case to fit it better. So those are some of the things. And unfortunately, Sri Lanka itself has very little VC investment. But you can talk to foreign companies as well. You can look at the Sri Lankan companies to come at an early round. So you have a thing called angel investors. So angel investors are the very early investors of your company. So if you break it down, so first thing you have is bootstrapping of friends and family. the ones who trust in you and want to help you and put some money down. And then you have angel investors who are experts of this particular field you are in, would be a mentor to you, would get a higher percentage in the beginning as well, and will help you take into the market. And then you have the venture capital rounds. They are not essentially going to help you too much to run the business. They will help you to be what you want to be to do the business. They will be, they will essentially give you the money, give you the framework of how they operate, and let you be. The angel is the one who will be working with you, inspiring you, getting you the connections. VCs still do that. VCs will definitely connect you. They always like ask you how can I connect you with more people to help you. But for them, it's a numbers game. So an angel will be very well suited to say you're starting from here to get you from here to another market, get you those uh, VC contacts as well. So there are a few funds here that have been doing that. There are a few companies that have gotten grants and gotten it into Singapore markets and talking to those. So those are some of the ways. And also the other thing I'm saying is venture capital is also not the only way. For an example, Urban was not in that, and we had a very good revenue at the end of it. We were close to $100,000 in revenue monthly when we were exiting it. So that's still a very good amount of money that you can earn, you can live, and you can learn from there. Venture capital is a whole other thing. So if you're going for that, you need to know a few things. You need to have a very good mindset about the work that you will have to do. You will have to come up with a very big idea, and you will have to be in the right market for the product you're building. So those are some of the things that I think might help you if you're going down that path. Um, there's a lot of resources, so you can read quite a bit of books on this as well. One particular book I love is Zero to One by Peter Thiel. It breaks down exactly how they have been building these startups.
Right. So I think that is very insightful because when you talk about startups in Sri Lanka, most of the capital investments are buyouts, right? We never hear about, venture capital, seed funding, angel investors. Those are kind of alien terms to us, right? So I think this could be like an eye opener to many startups here who can think of different ways that they can fund their business going forward. Another question that we had for you is about the blockchain industry here in Sri Lanka. So you guys are a leading company here. So how do you see the blockchain industry developing in the upcoming years?
So when it comes to the technology of blockchain in Sri Lanka, there are different firms that are doing different kinds of services. There are dev shop type of companies that are experts in blockchain technology and will help you build the best one. There are different companies that are trying to use that technology and build a more business use case and take that into market. I think when it comes to the technology of blockchain itself, there could be very good innovation. There's good potential. Take the land registry. There were some discussions about blockchain technology being added there, and take identity. ID verification is something that this technology can be used for, and also remittances. Sri Lanka has a big remittance market, and we are paying a huge commission on that remittance. So Sri Lankan banks can easily set up a system where you can transact using this kind of stable coin based systems as well. These are being already tested in developed countries like Singapore. MAS, the Monetary Authority, always has some form of innovation they are testing out with JB Morgan to BlackRock to those kind of companies. And Sri Lanka is a bit behind in that sense. I think part of that is the fear of the technology because um, earlier, let's say when the financial crisis was happening, government really didn't want people to access a form of money that would allow them to take the money outside because it's going to be counterproductive and understandable. So from the government's point of view. But at the same time, now we are looking at new ways to get more people here. I recently saw this sponsored video to get people to work out of Port City, like make Southeast. It's like a they are trying to position it as a hub for digital nomads in Southeast Asia. I think which is a good effort, and the Solana community was responding positively, and they're going to host a meetup in Sri Lanka now. So those type of engagements are quite interesting. And there are also other forms that people have been experimenting. There's this one company that is a blockchain boot camp. So
Right.
they have some expertise. They are teaching people how to do that. And there are companies who are making smart contracts for these other companies that are going to use them in different operations. So quite a bit of like exciting work happening in that sense.
So it seems pretty exciting how the future would hold, for the blockchain technology in Sri Lanka. But what about Hyperglade? What do you all envision Hyperglade becoming in the future?
So Hyperglade has been evolving each year. When we first started, we were looking at ways to use the technology and improve a process. We came up with a couple of methods. The financial part that I talked about is one aspect. The same technology we have used in a traceability product. So we have gotten this demand from the market essential to make this a traceability product where the consumer can see where the product originated from by simply scanning a QR code. So we have that product Hypertrails launching soon as well. And we see a combination there because that's for tracing supply chains, and we have the other product to fund supply chains. So in the future, there might be a cross section there. And we are also working with industry partners, banks, financial institutions who are using this technology now. So that's another component we are looking at. And on the other side, from the Sri Lankan market, we are also trying to get more investors into the Sri Lankan market. We have been encouraging people to visit. Last year, we were in a few countries, and everywhere we go, we are talking about Sri Lanka and getting people to come check out our beaches and mountains. So, with Hyperglade, I think that's something that we are looking to do as well.
Right. So I think that is very interesting insight on the path ahead for Hyperglade and how you all are attracting investors and spreading it out wide that, Sri Lanka is not just this small island with beautiful beaches, but also we can do things. We have the technology, we have the know-how, we
Exactly.
have the people. So I think that is a really cool thing that you guys are doing for the industry and for our country as well. So as you're wrapping up, I think one final question that we can ask today is, so you started in this blockchain industry, which was just a baby at the time. So it was just emerging out of its shell. And what advice would you give to potential entrepreneurs who are also looking to navigate in similar industries which are just starting out? And you could maybe elaborate a bit about the common pitfalls, how you should market yourself, how you should avoid, crashing out. So, any stories that you could tell or any lessons that you could tell our users which would help them in their entrepreneurial journeys?
Right. So, I think if you're building a product company like Hyperglade, which is focused on a large sum of users, main thing you need to understand is that it's not the technology that drives the company, but using the technology to understand a pain point somebody has and solving that. So your key focus should be talking to the customer to make sure that this is what they want. Because most of the time, especially coming from computer science, I know that people put a lot of time and effort perfecting the technology, making it the fastest, making it the best, while ignoring the consumer part. That is quite important, especially in the beginning. What they are looking for, what you should be looking for, is a version one type of a product, or what is called a MVP. uh, that essentially is a product that will validate what you're trying to do for the early consumers that you're targeting. So you pick a few customers, talk to them, understand their pain point, and train the product to solve that. You shouldn't make 10 products to solve 10 problems either. It should be one product, one use case solving problems for 10 people. Because otherwise, what you're going to do is another service company. So that is very critical, understanding the right customer. And when you have the wrong customer, drop that customer, find the right customer, iterate enough so that you know this product is suitable for a market. Talking to customers, networking, building those partnerships is very important. I think in my journey, that's something that helped me a lot as well. So I come from a computer science background, but when I'm operating, I'm mostly in the business aspect. My background has helped me to crack and navigate this field, also know how to use the technology. But I feel like the key contribution I'm putting into the company now is in the business side. So I was quite introverted when I was in the university. This journey also got me out of my shell, and it'll be a very good benefit. Got me a lot of good friends, a good network. So try that out. Have that focus that if you're building something, keep the customer's use case in mind. That's one thing. Other thing is know that it's a lot of work to do something like that. If you're somebody who would like to do a 9 to 5 and shut down your head, this would not be recommended. Um, but there are ways to do it also. You don't have to build the biggest unicorn. You don't always have to go through the VC path. You can also build a business that generates a healthy amount of money per month and you can survive. It depends on what you are expecting out of this journey and where you want to go. So understanding will be very valuable because otherwise your expectations versus reality will not be the same, right? Um, there's a lot of resources. That's the other thing. So talk to people, set up calls. There are enough and more platforms that let you talk to others, founders, other investors. I have also gone to a lot of conferences. In conferences, if you're going, always go to the side events. You can go to the conference, but side events are quite more impactful than the main conference itself, in my opinion. Those are ways to get a lay of the land, see where you're at, see what you can do. And yeah, I think amount of lessons I've learned is numerous. So in interest of time, I think I'll just cap it from there.
Right. So I think as we bring to an end a very insightful and very eye-opening conversation on what lies out there, not just in your traditional technological landscape, but exploring new fronts in different new technologies. So we really thank Mr. Kalana for being with us here, despite your very busy schedule and all the work that you have. So thank you for being here and sharing with us your insights and your thoughts about your journey. So we wish you the best of luck in all your future endeavors. And to our listeners, thank you for joining on another episode of Debug Diaries by CSC. We hope that you learned a lot from this episode, and we wish to see you again on the next episode of Debug Diaries. Thank you.